Well, it's that time. We have Idan who's going to join us right now. Are you guys ready?
I hope he's ready for all
Yeah,
this heat.
let's do
I
Is
this.
hope
he
he's ready
ready?
for us.
Is he
This is
ready for us? That's the question. Okay.
That is a good question, Wolf.
this is going to be Idan's first experience with Upland After Dark crew. So
He's
let's
ready.
welcome him to the show right meow. Hello, sir. How are
Hello,
you?
hello, hello. Hey guys.
What is up?
What's
Well,
up?
Everything is great other than the fact that my precious background is not working, so I'm just gonna have to go natural.
We get to see all your wonderful music equipment back there.
Yeah. What's up,
Like
guys?
that's not a
Good,
bad
good,
background
good
at
to be
all.
here for the first time.
Yeah. Have you ever caught the show before?
To be honest, I got bits of it, but never like a full episode. So I'm happy to enjoy this for the first time.
I'm sure it's hard to watch a full 2 hours of a whole our
Sometimes three.
podcast. Man.
Hey, but
We
I'm
get out
stoked to hang
there,
out with
right?
you. So happy Genesis week, guys.
Yeah. Happy Genesis week.
Right.
How's everything going for you with Genesis week?
It's a craze as always. I think one thing is that we took a break this year from in person, obviously, and I think that gave us a chance to focus a lot on online events because we do have a limited amount of attention to give as a team. So I think it's great to off to a great start, and we can't wait to see all the engagement, all the fun we're gonna have together all throughout this week. So we are really stoked as a team.
Awesome. Well, we're super stoked as players and people in the game to just see what kind of crazy nonsense comes out. You've already inundated us with more than I can possibly get
It's
through
a lot.
before this show started.
Yes.
So, uh, Happy and Wolf, have you guys had a chance to look at any of that stuff yet?
Man, it was coming through so fast and furious on my phone today when I'm trying to teach class. I was like Upland to get me fired today. Watch, as I scroll through my phone and a student leave the building or something. So I was trying to stay focused and doing my job, but I'm telling you, my notifications were going off crazily. So maybe I get a little refresher. I'm seeing that it's Upland versus the world. We're fighting against Sparkly Wars. We're fighting against the environment. P versus E. We're going to get to beat up on Upland as a crew.
It's the collector protocol. It's not Upland, but
Well,
yeah, sure. Follow the
yes,
story.
yes, the collective. Yes, we get
It's
to
like
battle.
you're coming on us.
He's like, no, I ain't me. It's not me. It's not me.
Yeah, it's not them.
I don't. Yeah, we have no affiliation with the collector protocol. It's an
If you
evil.
get it done, we're going to
glitch.
bomb you, my friend. If you are part of that, get ready to get bombed by us.
It's an evil glitch in the matrix. So you
Okay.
guys, you can follow the law legit.
Yeah,
It's all
I read the little lore legits. I saw we're all in trouble, man. We gotta start taking care of those drones that are gonna be coming after us.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm ready. Then I saw something POV, and then it was like on the sidewalk. I was looking at POV view. Can't even remember. Like 7, 8 things went across my phone in one day already. So I guess
Right.
Upland is
We have a great new scavenger hunts that are lined up, and also kind of like taking advantage of that POV. So these are going to be a bit different. You're going to have little hints, and you're going to have to kind of like find the spots in Upland through those scavenger hunts. So they're going to be dropping all throughout the week. It's going to be fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot more. So this is our chance to celebrate as a community. So we're it's always our favorite week of the year.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
think
took the
it's
whole day off today
ours as well.
because I was like, I'm sure it's just going to be packed full of excitement. And I normally take a couple of days off a week this time this time of year, anyways, because of Genesis week. So I was stoked to not have to really do much this morning and keep hitting those different announcements that were coming. I'm going to be on top of the Block Explorer burn. That's going to be.
Saw
I
that.
stocked up on a whole bunch of those BEs before the price went up, and hoping to burn a bunch of those and maybe even get in on a couple of kart races. And yeah, no, exciting. I think you guys are doing a great job for the start of like Genesis week and not in person.
All right, thank you. And then let's not forget simple travel. This is something we've been talking about and kind of like envisioning for a long while. It took us a bit to get it done, but I think that's a huge quality of life improvement. And I think especially when we're thinking about onboarding new players, it's really hard to get your bearings in Upland and understand how to travel. And I think that's a very important feature for the future, which makes, takes out a lot of the friction that has to do with, really engagement in Upland. So really stoked to see how this, solves and turns out. I think we just recently, probably a month ago, made some updates also to treasure hunting, which I think, again, the numbers that we are seeing indicate that we are, getting a lot better results when it comes to, fighting bots and fighting automated hunting, etc. So I think all in all, we're, very, 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 very happy in the direction that, Upland is evolving. And yeah, let's not forget, we like, from one Genesis rig to another, there are more and more things to do, more ways to, just like I think last year it was just pretty much when user generated content started to show up, but now you see it at scale, right? We have a lot of creators, a lot of people creating cool stuff in Upland. So POV 2 years ago, yeah, would have been just a bunch of structures. POV today, you actually get to see like the whole beautiful complete neighborhoods, entire streets decorated, and with life coming a bit later down the road, now you're gonna start seeing really the metaverse come to life, come to actually, that's actually the tagline that we are following this year, which is we're forging the infinite playground, right? And that's what it is. This is Upland.
So if real quick, because I know L-Stack's going to get a kick out of this, so I don't even want him to hear this, but I saw a little disclaimer about iOS. iOS. So what's going on with iOS? We got to wait a little bit.
It's just the app needs to be approved there to be released, so it's there.
So it's not like Android has a big head start on us, right?
No. It's going to be all out there. You're talking about the POV, right?
Yes.
Feature. Yeah. So once the app is approved and released, everybody.
Okay, just point. L-Slack tends to
Well, Android is the better platform. I mean, it just is.
But Apple a day keeps the doctor away, my friend. Okay.
What do you have, Apple or Android?
I'm an Apple guy.
Apple, thank you, my friend.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
But POV doesn't work for us.
Well, then you have to know the struggle.
Yes, he knows the struggle.
Of course. Listen, I like Apple they're masters at user experience. And
they are.
And again, as I come from a deep product background, and to me it's just very impressive. I love Google, I love Android, but I love Apple more. Sorry.
I know all of you brainwashed individuals get sucked into that Apple ecosystem. It's great. Like, don't get me wrong, Apple puts out a really strong product, but I just can't support it. It hurts me.
Why does it need to be brainwashing? I mean, you can pick your choice. It's all good. That's the beauty of capitalism. Like you get to
once you get one and then you get two, then you just can't go away from it. You're stuck.
Yeah.
You get your Apple TV and your iPhone and your iPod, and all of it just seamlessly works together. Why wouldn't you want them all to work together?
That sounds like a great product. Not brainwashing.
That's awesome to me, right?
I don't know. I can't do it. I can't do it.
So happily you have your choice and you can choose Android. So that's cool.
I suppose. I guess you
can
can choose between a third.
What you do have
a tiny screen or a big screen. That's it. So enjoy your tiny screen or big screen.
I will say, no matter what, like between the two, Android is way better for Upland. It just is, man. Like
it is
the experience.
Tell me more.
I think with everything in general, racing or just even totems was way better. For example, since so my work phone is an Android, and so I was logging into Upland through my work phone to feed my totems because I can't add a decimal point.
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, so for my totems, I had to use my work phone so I could log in to make sure that I was optimally feeding them. Otherwise, I couldn't have. It would have had to just been a round number.
So you're saying there's no way that we could optimally feed on Apple?
First of all, that's news to me. So first of all, I took away something from this podcast right away. So that's great because I did not know that. But you should be able to. put
Yes.
decimal
Does not,
points on
it
an
does
island.
not give you the option.
And,
The
and
only way I
it's
was
the
able
same.
to do it.
It's the same for USD sales. So, like, say you want to put in a USD sale, and like be sure that you're not putting in a UPX sale because you can't put in decimal points on a UPX sale. But so a lot of people like to do like 9.99, right? So $9.99, and you can't do that on an Apple phone. You can only do $9 or $10. So just something else for you to take away.
Yeah, absolutely. So
So-
thank you for that info. That's very valuable.
Yeah, that was a weird thing I discovered the first time I had to feed my phone because my work phone's an Apple phone and I hate it with a passion. And so when I went to go feed that, I'm like, why can't I put in the decimal? And so I had to go like to a browser or something, and then or just somewhere I could type normally, and then put it in, and then copy and paste it in there. That was the only way I could do it. It was a real weird thing.
Yeah, so all he said you could paste the price in, but it's annoying. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
that
good to
is-
know.
That
That's
should
something I
absolutely
didn't
be
know.
something
Thank
we
you,
should
Marlon.
be able to solve. So yes, that's
Yeah.
on us.
That's why Android's better.
For
That's
now.
all you need. For now. Yeah.
all right.
Anyway, Dan, so do you have any look? This is Genesis week, and there's announcements on announcements on announcements. Do you have any big, beautiful announcement you can drop right here on the Vulgar Uplander channel that we can share to the whole world so they can get some sort of new exclusive thing? What do you got for us?
Well, I mean, I don't know about exclusive, and I don't know how much we've shared in the past, but I think you can. One thing I can absolutely do is lay out the vision, and everything ties together. Again, everything ties to forging the infinite playground. It ties back to basically the value of properties and building communities and etc. And you saw kind of like the step we took with life. And again, this is something we've been planning for years. I mean, we've introduced the concept of life long before with totems, probably like 2 Genesis weeks ago. But now we're actually, you're seeing the totems have their utility in the relation to program, in the relation to being able to kind of like sell seeds, on mint seeds in nurseries around Upland, and eventually the introduction of life, hopefully coming later this year to Upland. But beyond that, again, we are going to gamify Upland even further, and I think when in the past years, when people imagine what do renters look like in Upland, right? They always imagine like people renting homes from other people in Upland. But one way that we are going to increase gamification, and again, it ties everything together, is basically doing some kind of simulations and having the neighborhoods that are built in Upland and communities come to life with simulated kind of like population in Upland. And this is the direction we are going to go to. So you're going to see how basically the fact that life comes into Upland, the fact that neighborhoods come together, they will start creating actual activity, like simulated activity in those neighborhoods. And this will tie also to unique structures that have specific functions, etc., etc. So you're going to basically see Upland kind of like become more and more like bursting to life, bursting with simulated life in the future. And I think that's a cool direction that's going to go. Again, it kind of like becomes kind of like this, hopefully what will become the biggest collaborative city builder in the world.
That's ambitious. That's awesome.
Yeah, and again, like these are all the the little pieces that fall together to build something bigger. And again, realizing that vision takes time, and for Upland it's been year after year of building, but you can definitely see everything converging together. And again, the good thing I think to keep in mind is everything ties back to the very core of Upland, which is basically property mapped to the real world, right? And everything that's to do with travel and POV and life and structures and different types of structures, manufacturing and UGC, everything at the end of the day ties to the location, to the core of Upland, which is, at the end of the day, the properties, the fact that it's a digital world mapped to the real world.
If I can't,
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry, Happy, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I got well, mine's in terms of the building and the properties. Of course, we need Sparklet to do it. I know a lot of messages and things have been released today. Maybe you could let us know. I haven't caught everything. Has there been a spark adjustment yet, or are we planning for a spark adjustment coming soon?
So we've had one sparklet. You mean sparklet adjustment for to reflect the price in the
Yes.
market? So we've had one happen before. Again, we don't want to do knee-jerk reactions. And again, I know the fluctuations have been massive. At the end of the day, we all know we have to kind of like face the facts, right? We envisioned sparklet to be a big growth engine for Upland. And it turned out, to our, again, this is not something that we thought would happen, but it didn't look like speculators in the crypto space got attracted to the tradable Sparklet token. And the crypto market in general for altcoins has not been very good in the past year. And I think what we see currently is that people in Upland want Sparklet, they buy Sparklet, but then people who are unaffiliated with Upland are not showing interest in the coin. And I think it kind of like does actually describe Upland, right? It's basically, Upland has never been a huge platform for speculation, okay? But it has been a huge platform for builders, for gamers, for people who want to kind of like, be engaged in a digital community that is building a part of the metaverse. So at the end of the day, yes, these adjustments will happen to reflect the real world price, but they will happen slowly and over time, and not kind of like we don't want to make these massive fluctuations. At the end of the day, what we want to do is introduce more and more ways and utility for Sparklet to be used. Right? As an example, if I see the future of specific types of buildings, showing up in the metaverse, like nurseries and, barbershops and supermarkets and kind of like neighborhoods becoming actual places of simulated activity. And if we're talking about life, for example, the ability for the first time to burn Sparklet in order to mint new seeds. Okay, these are all basically compounding effects of Sparklet utility that eventually will increase the demand for Sparklet. So we see the demand is coming from people that are engaged in the game. And our mission, first of all, as Upland, the company, but also as a community, is try to grow this community and by doing that, we also grow the demand. What we have seen in the past, and by the way, this is something that we have announced, I think, a couple of months ago, and we have started doing it, and we'll, Dirk and I are going to be talking about it a bit later in the week, was that, the Sparklet that is sold in-game, a portion of it is going to be used to actually buy back Sparklet from within the market. Because what happened up until now is, Upland is being, Sparklet is being bought inside the game, but you don't get that market effect outside of it because that demand for Sparklet doesn't hit the market. So we're going to basically take some of that and use it to buy Sparklet in the market as well. So again, I went on a long rant on a simple question, but the answer to your question is yes, there are going to be adjustments, but they're going to be not as fast as the price fluctuates.
So I just heard you say, so I know in regards, because for some of it's a good thing or a bad thing, totems, the cycles have kind of ended, which is good for me because it's a task. But I just heard, so now we're going to actually have to spend Sparklet or burn Sparklet in order to obtain seed legits.
Yeah,
we're going to have to spend Sparklet.
Right. So if you go back, to our original plans again, and they've been communicated, I think, as far back as last Genesis week, was that we have kind of like two types of let's call it NFTs that are game assets, right? There are ones that are visible on top of the map, and these are being manufactured. And to manufacture these, you need to stake Sparklet to manufacture them, right? So you take your Sparklet, you put it to work, and then when it's done manufacturing, you get it back. But then there's another set of NFTs, which are the legit class of NFTs, and they are not manifested on the map, but they are meant eventually to be used inside spaces, but for other purposes, such as, for example, seed legits, right? You don't see them on the map, but you own them. And if you as a player or us as Upland want to create this, we will need, and players will need, to basically burn Sparklet in order to mint those types of legits. And again, you're going to need much less Sparklet because you burn it, you don't stake it, you don't get it back, so you lose it forever. So it's going to be a much smaller amount that you'll need. But again, when it compounds, you're going to start seeing more and more utility of that sparklet being burnt. And again, going back to our white paper, the burnt sparklet will be put to vote what to do with it. It could be burned forever. It could be put back into the incentives and rewards pool, etc. So once we start that mechanism going, then the next thing will be, okay, we'll probably introduce the first votes, kind of like to see what we do with that spent sparklet together with the community.
Okay.
Happy to
And by the
do
way,
it.
I do want to take that opportunity, and maybe I'm kind of like jumping the gun, but there is going to be another feature drop that I think, again, it's not like a super exciting, but to me it's a very, very interesting development. And during this week we're going to deploy a feature that we call basically targeted voting. So that's the ability to put up votes that are only relevant for a specific subsegment of Uplanders. So, for example, you can take maybe the home addresses of a neighborhood, and you could put a vote for that neighborhood to vote on. Or you can take anybody who has ever raced in Upland and put a vote that is related to racing. Or you can take a faction from Sparklet Worlds. Let's say you take Cypher Cyborgs, and you say, okay, I want to put a vote up for the Cypher Cyborgs if they want to decide something. So that is, I think, again, another kind of like baby step we're taking with governance in Upland to be able to have more meaningful and impactful decisions together with the community.
Is that going to be Upland driven, or is that going to be user driven?
So it's going to start Upland driven, but there are pathways to get that eventually user driven as well. So, for example, if we think about maybe potentially the concept of mayorship for neighborhoods or for cities, etc., right? So, one step could be maybe electing, and then the other step could be maybe, the elected individuals, putting up propositions on their own. But again, it's another side. Again, it's not a very, playful or visually exciting feature, but I think it's a super interesting feature, to go down the road. And then one thing I do want to say that does maybe tie back to it, and this is, so we want to take this Genesis week, and again, I think you guys are all aware of what we did with Sparklet Wars. I think it's super exciting feature. Again, a feature that was built all the way back. I don't know if any of you were here when we did Spud Wars, like probably 4 or 5 years ago. But I think that was like a very fun and engaging and controversial gameplay that was done. And based on that, we kind of like took the concept of Sparklet Wars, tried to make it a bit more fun, a bit more exciting, and a bit more repeatable. And again, we launched it. I think we saw very, very good engagement numbers. We saw very good emotional connection between the people that are playing and their factions. But what we also saw is basically, some of the bad stuff floating of why, these things are challenging, but also why sometimes Web3 concepts can collide with actual gameplay. And we want to take this Genesis also as means to, have some deliberations with the community, together with the community, for how to proceed with Sparklet Wars. And we're going to put up a couple of kind of like offers of what we can do. And by the way, PvE mode is part of that, right? So that's one way that we can take Sparklet Wars. Instead of fighting the faction fighting against, maybe it's a version of PvE. But there are other potential solutions to address Sparklet Wars as well. My point being is that we want to take Genesis Week to basically, talk with the community, put in front and center all the challenges and problems, find solutions, and at the end of it, basically decide together what is the path forward with a very important feature such as Sparklet Wars. And what's cool about the story that the company's Genesis season with low legits and everything, it's an open-ended story. And if you kind of like follow the first 5 low legits, they stop at the minute that the PvE war starts. But the story will be developed according to how things develop in Upland and how we decide to take Sparklet Wars forward.
Oh, that's cool.
Very cool.
So there is no yet episode 6 to 10. Episode 6 to 10 is an open book that will be decided together with the community.
Nice. I see we have new weaponry. I did see that. A cannon?
Well,
For the
it's the same
Is
weaponry
that
from the
only
new
for the
faction, the
special
Foundation
forces?
Force. Yeah.
It's the leveled up cannon or the season 4 cannon, or is it different? I don't know.
So this is so we're introducing a new faction called Foundation Forces. And again, we have a lot of different suggestions of then what to do next with in combination of these four factions in Upland. But the key is that we're going to put up all of these ideas, front and center. We're going to ask the community to give their own ideas. I think we have a scheduled either a Discord session, if I'm not mistaken, on Wednesday. But don't catch me on the date. I may be wrong. Where we're going to actually have a panel and we're going to discuss all these options. We're going to hear any ideas from the community, and then at the end we're going to kind of like vote on how to proceed. We're going to put together an offer with several options of how to proceed, and the community will help us decide how to bring it forward. And again, this will include basically the four factions. We have the Cypher Cyborgs, we have the Kryptonites, we have the Purge Pirates, and we have the Foundation Forces now.
And what's a war without airstrikes? That's just my hint.
Well, we have drones in this PV, and they are actually floating in the air, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
But again, yeah, absolutely. Like new types of weaponry and things like that. Once we get the base mechanic right, so once we get the mechanic that is balanced, and again, the main problem I think we saw two main problems with Sparkles Wars so far. So one, it looks like it's not trivial to level the playing field when you have like a very strong community centered around one faction that has basically got them rightfully so with an amazing three-peat for the Sparkle Wars. So first of all, that's one challenge, right? How to balance it without nerfing. Like nerfing is always easy, but we don't want to go there because it's not very fun for the winning party. But there are other things we could do to kind of like balance things out. And I think the other challenge is, again, this is not good or bad. It's just the fact. When we have a Web3 mindset, we have an open market, we have tangible value to assets, people are going to come to this with the mindset of trying to make a profit as opposed to trying to have a good time. And that's fine. And we need to find the right balance and the right kind of like mechanics that would allow this to happen, because it's human nature and we do want tangible value for everything we do in Upland. That's part of of why we created this open economy. But we want to kind of like pair it with the right mechanics, so it's balanced and people that want to have fun still have fun and don't basically get punished from people who are looking at it to make a profit.
I got a question about like the Web3 kind of mentality. And you mentioned punish, but I'm gonna look at it in a different way. Part of like Web3 and like a decentralization would be kind of people, the users governing themselves. Is there a place where is there a time you see that we can get to a place where we do away with like Alcatraz or like the Upland moderation within Upland? Because that seems to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that seems kind of counter intuitive to what a Web3 or the decentralization would be.
100%. So yes, we have to understand that these are like, there are conflicting sides to this, and the real problem is that if you have a self-governing community that's not active enough and not strong enough, it's gonna be caught in a place where it can't decide anything. I can name a few other projects in the Web3 space that have gone that route, and basically it didn't work. Right? To have functioning self-governance, you need a specific scale, and you need enough people that are interested in governing and actually care about the platform. Until you get to that point, you have to rely on some centralized mechanisms, because otherwise the game will not develop. It will be basically stuck in limbo. And again, I urge you to look at other Web3 projects that started fully decentralized and where they are today. There are not very good examples of ecosystems that were fully decentralized from the get-go and were successful. So oftentimes you have to have this centralized mechanism to balance things out, because what, like we can build systems, but we're humans, and we sometimes create them with flaws, and it
Right.
takes one party, like, or a dozen or like a few individuals to exploit these faults. And if there's no consequence, if there's no somebody to correct it, if there's no basically governing body to do that, that can destroy the game and the economy, and everybody gets hurt at the end of it. So there has to be some balance between centralization and decentralization, and this is the main reason why we chose to take what we call progressive decentralization, where we try to over time give more and more authority to the community. And I think that's also part of the things that we're going to see. Again, if we are looking at this from the very long run, there is a pathway for full decentralization to Upland, I think. And in that we've covered that in the past. And I think the way that it looks most reasonably is, at the end of the day, Upland as a company owns a lot of assets that make it centralized, right? We own the code, we own the IP, we currently own the chain that runs Upland in a private, in kind of like in a centralized manner. And all of these things over time can be delegated to the community. So if I imagine, right, whatever, and I don't want to put a timeline to it as of now, but if there is a pathway where, first of all, let's say the community achieves ownership of the chain, first of all, and this could be done through different mechanisms. It could be, so currently Upland is running the nodes that are producing blocks for the chain, but people, like actual community members, may run the nodes, for example, as one way of decentralization, and then basically hold the collective set of private keys that control the chain. Or alternatively, there could be something like a DAO established, a legal entity that represents the Upland players. Again, it could be through governance tokens, it could be through other mechanisms, it could be through current voting mechanisms in Upland, etc. But the point is that if that entity that represents the community officially, that entity can actually run the chain and have full authority over it. And then that could be another form of decentralization that is not, it's not something you see common, but it makes a lot of sense because it's very efficient. So the platform doesn't have to spend like huge amount of fees on a decentralized blockchain, right? It could basically own a centralized blockchain, but then that is still separated from the operator. Okay, and then over time, that authority could actually obtain things like owning the IP, owning the domains, owning the code that is being developed, making Upland the company basically just an operator that is being kind of like hired to do operations by the DAO. So that is one way that decentralization could go. But again, to your question, like, do we need Alcatraz? Do we need centralized mechanisms? I believe Upland is not yet at a scale where full decentralization would lead to a positive outcome. But
That's
again,
fair.
it's absolutely debatable, and I think we should have these debates and kind of like, because I know even from within the community, a lot of people are scared of decentralizations because they are scared of Upland going the direction of DAOs that became dysfunctional, for example, right? So we need to make sure that whatever decisions we make, we protect the future of the platform. By the way, one thing that we've been playing around with, and again, there's a lot of ideas that we can discuss and put on the table. But you can imagine, for example, a DAO that makes decisions, but the decisions need to be ratified by Upland players. So what if, for example, a DAO created a decision, let's say the decision was to reduce the yield of properties, the yearly yield, right? But then Upland players need to vote on it to ratify it. So it's kind of like you make different branches, right? Like in the US governance system, for example, you have three branches. You may have these types of branches here, and that creates checks and balances that are going to be meant to protect the future of the platform. But again, like I often do, I went off on a rant on a simple question, so I'll take a pause here.
No, it was actually a really valuable answer, because I mean you kind of answered a bunch of questions I already kind of had, which was nice. So thank you. Yeah. Happy. Do you have
I just
anything
want to
to
say
add to
I've
that?
kind of seen the game like kind of really grow over the last 4 years. It's gone from just being something so different. Like when I first started, I feel like it was like Upland was its infancy almost, like just really kind of learning where it was going to go with everything. And I mean, it was back when people were swapping properties all the time, and that was kind of like the most utility that we had. And like in a big way, it sucked when that went away, but it's also been kind of nice to see how well you've pivoted and like really started adding more and more value to the properties. And I think with bringing life into the game, that's going to be like one of the biggest changes that we're going to see. Like being able to have like a field of grass on your property and growing a palm tree, and your map asset pool, and you have a whole story going on, and even more so. Let me ask, are we going to be feeding, or like we're going to have to feed the grass and we're going to have to keep up with everything? Is Protum still going to be like, that's going to turn into something else, right?
STEM.
Yeah, eventually it will turn to STEM, but it's going to be either 1-for-1 or kind of like 1-for-X, but doesn't matter. But the term will become STEM eventually when it's fully functional. But we're going to make it easy for people. So we have no interest in forcing players to then go feed their patch of grass one by one. It just doesn't make any sense. So from a user experience perspective, it's going to be really easy to keep up with the life that you're cultivating. But we have like two things. But you could feed your life, and that basically affects the health. But again, in preparation for full life, there's going to be a well-being function as well. So in order for a life to thrive, right? So it's not enough just to feed it, but you can also cultivate it and make it so-called happy, right? And again, it's funny when you think about life, because a patch of grass, right? The well-being is not going to matter that much. But if you have a very delicate flower, if you're growing tulips, for example, okay, so cultivating may make some sense. And cultivating anybody could do. You don't need resources for it. You just need attention. Again, you can imagine when there's full-on life, when you have a pet, when you're growing a dog, a puppy in Upland, right? It does become very important that it's not just being fed, but it's actually being cultivated and pampered to become a happy dog. So that is that is how we look at life. And it's funny. I mean, you mentioned before, like back then, in Upland's infancy, and all we could hear was, okay, we have properties when utility, and then we keep introducing utility, and sometimes we get kind of like the feedback of, okay, but what does that have to do with properties? Well, so it's there's kind of like this pendulum, right? But I think, like, I don't know a lot of utilities that we have released that are not tied in some way to properties and locations. And I think that, again, that's our North Star at the end of the day. All of the utility, all of the things that we cast into Upland, they follow a vision, and that vision is basically founded on digital real estate. And why is it important? Why do digital locations matter at all, right? And you think about all the pains we went through travel. Like, why is it so painful to travel, even though now it's really become simplified? But why is there friction to travel? Again, the answer is because otherwise it wouldn't matter. The location in a digital space wouldn't matter if you could just jump around from one place to another. So why do I care who my neighbors are? Why do I care what's my local community? Why do I care where my home address is? So again, everything follows a master plan. And again, that master plan absolutely, tweaks and pivots as we evolve, as we learn new things. But I'm happy to say that we're pretty much still on focus and on our mission, as it was, 6 years ago. So that's pretty cool. That's something that kind of like we're happy with.
That's awesome.
I've really enjoyed watching it grow. One other question I gotta ask, like, do you ever find that it's hard to explain to investors and just like how to market Upland to people, because there's so much to really offer?
Sure, forget about investors. I mean, let's talk about players. It's not easy to market Upland to new players just because of its complexity. And I always take the example, like, again, my kids are grown up by now, so but when they were younger, they played Minecraft. And I would go and I could never understand like what what they find in it. And I once tried like to onboard to Minecraft, and I just didn't get it, because again, it's an open-ended world. You need to understand stuff in order to enjoy it. And I think Upland is a bit similar. You have this open-ended playground, and there's a lot of gaming loops and things that could captivate your imagination. And once you get in, once you know the people, once you work together with them, it's actually fun and immersive. And immersive not in a way that you put on your VR goggles and you're in a virtual world. It's immersive in a way that you are experiencing something, you are doing something right now in a digital realm, as opposed to in the physical world. And we've seen buckets of it, but I think because of the size, because of the openness of it, it makes it challenging to onboard new players. And I think one of the, again, everything ties back. I'm going to get a bit technical here from the business perspective, right? Again, a couple of years ago, something really, really dramatic happened, and that was Apple kind of like enforcing their IDFA or taking out their IDFA option. Basically, the inability to actually track usage beyond the point of install by Apple. And by the way, and this is something that wasn't just painful for Upland, it was painful for almost all consumer focused apps, in the ecosystem. And it made it really, really hard to then onboard large amounts of players in an effective way. And you've seen that we've done a lot of different attempts to resume massive growth. And you've seen that with the Sparklet token. You've seen that with the first trial we did with even Xtax when we tried to launch the first Twitter games. Again, we learned a lot of valuable lessons there, but I can't say that we have achieved our target, which is resuming massive growth. And this is still our main challenge and our main objective. And this is something I think we should all try to do together, right? Obviously, it's our main mission as Upland Me Inc., the company. But I think this is also our main mission as a community. Whatever we can do to onboard new players, that would guarantee the future and the longevity and the prosperity of the platform. So while I can't say yet for us, job is well done, high fives, we did it, because we have not yet resumed massive growth. This is still the main thing that we think about every day. How do we get there? Because that's now the final ingredient that will make the platform explode. Because the foundation is there. We see the kind of like engagement. We see whole communities enjoying, whether it's by racing, whether it's like world building, whether it's like podcast. Like there are active, live, thriving communities in Upland, and what we want to make sure is that we find the formula that resumes explosive growth. And once that happens, we're gonna see magic in Upland.
Yeah, I just feel like you guys are so innovative that it's like people just don't get it just yet. Like I really feel we are the early adopters. Like everybody who's even in the last 5-6 years, like people still hardly understand Bitcoin, yet alone XRP, Ethereum, SUI, right? Like, and then to really dive into what is a Web3 community and how does it work is still almost super foreign to most of the world, and so I just feel like a lot of times it's just that aspect that people are so out of the loop of it all that it's just
absolutely
hard to
agree.
track. But it's like
I absolutely agree. I think, and again, the innovation, and I think this is a really good point, and I think it's an amazing point to kick off Genesis Week, because the innovation is not just with the features. I think innovating with features is great. Innovating with new concepts is great, and I think we've been doing it for a while now. But the innovation is also tackling the problems that are preventing Web3 gaming from becoming what it should be. Finding these problems, tackling them, improving them, and coming up with formulas and solutions and mechanics that are now battle tested and are enjoyable to both participate in, both from a player perspective and also from kind of like people who want to extract value from the platform as well. So if we find that happy medium, we can make Web3 gaming actually work at scale in an enjoyable way. And I think that would be the innovation that basically is maybe the most important at the end of the day. Finding the right formula for Web3 gaming to work at scale. I think we're taking huge steps. And I think again, and the interesting thing is that we can't do it without the community, right? Like we can't come up with that formula just by envisioning it, throwing it out there. And it has to be step by step. It has to see what what works, improving on that, iterating on that, and then at some point it will be palatable to a mass audience, and that's where hopefully we'll be able to grab more and more people in, and they won't even necessarily know that they are in Web3, or it's not going to be even a term. I think what they're going to know is that they're having a lot of fun, they're playing, and oh geez, I can actually also keep my assets and resell them. Yeah, that's amazing. That's great.
I had a quick question in terms, because I'm hearing a lot about growth. That's awesome. What about in regards to, has Upland ever thought about, because I know several players now over my course of 4 years that have actually passed away. Has Upland ever thought like beneficiary program, a legacy program, or is it as simple as me just giving my wife my password before I pass away? Like, is there something like, what happens to these accounts when somebody transitions? Is there a way?
Yeah, this to be honest, this has been on our minds from early on. Like I think like naming beneficiaries appears, if I'm not mistaken, on our very first roadmap from 2020. We just have not had the chance to prioritize and implement these mechanics. But yes, absolutely, this is doable. It's solvable. Unfortunately, we've seen it happen a few times in Upland, and again, we can. Again, because we have some centralized power in Upland, we can work with those that are unfortunately affected by it, to kind of like do the due diligence and understand exactly what happened, and who the beneficiaries could be.
It's like a family member could reach out to you, or
it's possible. Again, it's the problem is that again you'd have to have some access to the personal. So like if you don't have, let's say access to email accounts, again it could get very difficult to solve. But if the family has access to kind of like the assets, then it's absolutely doable, and we'll work with them to do it. Moreover, we have been kind of like investigating and looking into the idea of actually commemorating and kind of like paying tribute to Upland players who have unfortunately passed away, and we knew this is going to be a reality from the very early beginning. But yes, if to your question, are we thinking about it? Absolutely yes.
I got a question rolling back. I know it's hard to pivot from that one. That's kind of especially it's kind of a sore subject as of recently, as we all know. But going back just a little bit, Dan, being that this is like was it our 5th Genesis week since 2020? How has like your role and like your typical day changed or evolved from 2020 to today?
Wow. It's a great question. Obviously, when we started out in 2020, we were, a very tiny team, and with a big vision and not a lot of resources, right? And Upland has changed since then. Again, my role started out at the beginning, super, hands-on, tiny team, like, just building the product. It kind of like slowly evolved into more of a leadership position. As things naturally happen with the development of companies, I think we've seen again, we've experienced the hyper growth phases where Upland also growed as a team, but then also kind of like the realities where Upland had to maybe scale back a bit with the team. But moreover, especially in the last year, one thing that has dramatically changed was more and more AI tools being kind of like available. And we could have a whole podcast about this, basically, on kind of like how does the future of humanity look like when more and more human functions are being replaced by machines and AI. But I can tell you that Upland has been taking as much leverage as we can from these tools to actually increase our productiveness, our efficiency, and not having to require so many hands on deck. So and that has been something that has very, very much changed in my day to day. So again, a lot of my time goes to identifying how AI can actually contribute, and what are the processes that we can put in place to make Upland's development more and more effective. And it spans everything. So it can go from, if 3 years ago we had a team of writers, right? To put out announcements and blog posts and stuff like that, right? That has dramatically changed. If we think about like design, right? Like a lot of the heavy lifting of things that humans used to do are now being done by AI processes. We talk about development and coding. Like every single aspect is being touched by AI. So that is another thing that has dramatically changed over the past year, and I think it's great for platforms and their ability to develop at a higher efficiency. It's another debate whether or not like this is great for humanity or not, but that could be a
Right.
different process.
Yeah. This is a touchy subject. Feel free to answer if you want. But does that play a role into like the most recent scaling back, the availability of AI and the functionality of AI as far as
100%.
Upland is concerned?
100%. And any company that will tell you otherwise would be either lying or would be extinct because they're not thinking the right way. So yes, 100%. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I got it. I know we don't have a lot of time with you left, but I do have a couple like little things that we're working on over here. So you know what Mad Libs are?
So say again?
Do you know what a Mad Lib is? Have you
A
ever
Mad
heard of
Lib?
this? Yeah.
No, I apologize. I don't.
Oh, well, that's okay. There's lots of people that don't. So essentially, it's like there's a story, and you fill in words. It'll tell you to say, hey, like I need a noun, or I need an adverb, or an adjective, or something like that. And then you just, before you read the whole story, you fill in these words. So that's what we're doing. I have an Upland Mad Lib that I'm working on, and I need a couple words from you.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what kind of words they are. So could you give me, Idan, a currency, any currency that you could possibly think of?
I want to say sparklet, but now I'm afraid. So let's say I'll go with dollars.
Okay. That's kind of boring, but I guess we'll go with dollars. Now, what about...
You know what? Okay, you want something more exciting?
Yes.
Okay. Cows.
Cows. Got it. I love that. Okay. Can you give me an adjective?
Boring.
Say it like had a weird little glitch right there.
Boring.
What'd you say?
Boring.
Boring.
Boring. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, as we go, all the guests that we have on the show today, we're just going to fill in these words. And at the end of it, when we do our Upland After Dark segment, I'm going to read the whole thing out with all these words that we've put in together as a team. So anyway, thank you for that. Let's see if I can find a fun little question for you down here. I have a list of questions that I prepared. What out of all of the player feedback and requests over the years, what's the weirdest one that still sticks out to you?
Of player requests.
Yeah.
The weirdest player request ever. I mean, nothing jumps to mind. Maybe I'm having a hard time like figuring out what was a player request versus what was team feedback versus what was other things. But no, nothing jumps to mind. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. Let's
So
see here.
nobody has actually done to join their node or buy some properties or join, change your address, or where do you have players ever asked you anything about like in the game?
You mean me personally, or like or as
you
feedback
personally.
to
You personally?
Oh man, I don't know why nothing jumps to mind, but I mean, I have gotten some ridiculous trade offers, like trying to get my stuff, but I always passed on them. But
where's your stuff at, bro? Where's your stuff? You got a home address? You got property? Let the people know.
Of course I do. What do you mean?
Yeah, where's your home address?
In LA.
Okay.
What node are you in?
I don't send you like 500,000.
So here's the thing. I like when we rolled out home addresses, we specifically said, you know what, we don't want to like as employees, like we have limitations of what we can do in the game. So
Right.
we didn't want to affiliate ourselves with a specific node. So we kind of like all went to like a deserted, or we at least started out in a deserted neighborhood, or I don't know if it's deserted now or not.
Okay.
But then I know since then, some employees have moved from there, but I stay there and I plan to stay there. So
Okay. I know that we have some giveaways to do, and we've had so much, I think, so much fun with this conversation that it kind of took the back burner. But I know we have some carts to give away, and I've been trying to think of like a good hashtag so we can give some of these away. What would be a good hashtag, Idan? Do you have something I could throw out there we could spin a wheel for?
let's call it the vulgar cart giveaway.
Vulgar. All right, vulgar cart. Hashtag vulgar cart, and you're going to be able to win. I think I actually even have a picture. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. This should be the cart that we're giving. We got 10 of these to give away. We're going to give away three right now. So get in hashtag vulgar cart. Let me start collecting
Oh,
that.
those are cool.
Yeah,
And
it's a beauty.
then, yeah, that is really cool. That's might be my favorite cart I've ever seen, to be honest with you. Yeah, and so we'll give away 3, but then I got 10 to give away for the whole show. So stay tuned. We'll give away these carts throughout the whole show. So, but we're gonna give away 3 right now. Let me get my thing up here so I can make sure I know what I'm giving away and who it's
While
going
you get
to.
ready for that, Idan, I got a quick question. Whatever happened to is BE Driver Academy? Is that out the window? Is that something to be revisited, or
No,
are we
it's
gonna-
not. Again, like this is a natural evolution of racing that we have not yet gotten to implement. So again, the block explorers being drivers in Upland is still a part of the roadmap and the vision for racing.
Because I need a BE that's going to be able to beat City Pigeons BE. You know what I mean? Because as long as City Pigeons are human, I need to get my BE up. I need to go to driver academy. I need to go to school to get better.
Well, by the way, I'm just curious. What is your judgment as a racer on kind of like the traps and boosts that were available for karts racing? Do you like it? Do you not
That
like
leveled up the carts definitely. I heard there's something coming where we're going to be able to collect stuff. Instead of just crashing into the boxes. I don't know if that has happened during Genesis week, but the upgrade with the green boost lines and everything has definitely turned kart racing much better, made it faster, because I was getting a little tired of doing 11-minute races with the karts. So they made them quicker.
Cool.
I got a question. Are we ever going to get an in-game marketplace that'll show like markup for basically mint price markups and then sale price markups?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, again, another thing that is constantly on the backlog. Yeah, I think it's absolutely due. I think that I would have expected it to by now be the gap being filled by like a third party service. But again, it's absolutely something that I think is missing today in Upland. We need to be able to see.
I mean, the
like,
gap is
trends.
filled. We do have Upland, but it's I feel like for new players, it's something that like the new players really just need to understand that purchasing properties in USD is the best deal in the game. Like if people don't get that right off the start, they can almost feel like they're scammed. Like I've talked to people who have felt that way about the game and just straight up user experience. Somebody bought, Upix straight from the market and then learned that they could have gone and spent that same money on, properties in game and they would have gotten a lot more value for it. And so I think that's one thing that if Upland did more, you might get a much better response from like player retention wise.
Yeah, I think the feedback is valuable. Yes, and I do think that like having market statistics inside the game for properties and other items as well. Yeah, I think it's absolutely something that is missing today in Upland.
Cool.
All right, let's give away some carts.
Let's go.
Shall we? All right, we got 66 entrants. We're gonna give away 3 right now. Let's see where we're gonna get them. Who's going to get them?
Smash the like button, people. We giving away cards, man.
Give me all kinds of stuff. Deep thinking.
I don't know deep thinking. What's up, deep thinking? Peace.
Let
Congratulations.
me know your in-game name as soon as you can. So that way I can get you that card. Well, so that way I can send the information to get you that card. All right, next one. We're gonna give away 3. So there's 1 down, 2 to go. Next one's gonna be Drew H.
Wow.
Another new player.
New player,
Yeah.
new to
Give me
UAD.
your in-game name.
It's all because of
Congratulations.
Idan being on the show.
Yes, because he done. Like, when do you guys? I don't even know these 3 guys.
Last one for this segment.
This is for a show. This is for a show regular.
We're gonna see.
No,
No, but they're gonna be a show regular.
they're gonna be a show regular.
All right, congratulations. Those are the
Wow.
3 for now, but there will be plenty more to come down the line. So don't you worry. Give me your in-game name, people. If you don't, I won't be able to help you out. Reach out to me or just post it in chat. All right. Idan, it's been a pleasure. I thank you so much
Wait,
for coming
one more. Somebody
what?
just text me. One more question. Look, all this words about POV is real quick. Will
Okay.
we have POV inside structures? Are we going to be able to go inside one day and look around? Because sometimes your box drops within your structure and you're like, wow, you have to move it out to put it on your property, but it's dropping inside. So I'm like, is something going to go on inside one day, a structure?
Well, you've made that question too easy for me because one day, yes, absolutely, yes, 100%.
POV inside.
Yes, sure. There's yes, absolutely 100%. Now, when is a really, really hard question, and I think we've hit on something here because again, we've introduced inside spaces via our collaboration with Nowhere. What we have learned is that we have not yet cracked the formula. People are still not find value on mass scales in meeting digitally together and engaging in activities in immersive 3D spaces. So we had to kind of deprioritize that a bit. So you haven't seen a lot of development going that route. But I think absolutely 100%, that is the grand vision at the end of the day. If we want to build a digital world, right, that people actually spend time and parts of their life living immersed in that world, you absolutely have to have the inside of spaces. 100% yes, no question asked.
Are you satisfied with the answer, Wolf?
See your spot. Imagine the posters you're going to have hanging up in one of your apartment structures. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious. We'll be able to do that. We'll be able to observe each other's structure, ornaments, and go inside. You know what I mean? I mean, properties, apartment building, ranches. We'll be able to visually go inside and look around. Not even with a VR, just.
Yeah. So again, my answer is eventually 100% yes. That has to be the end game when we're building a digital world. Absolutely.
All right.
I hope that's satisfied. That's a satisfactory answer.
That's cool. One day.
It's going to have to be Wolf.
All right.
We got to get this man out of here.
Upland's not
All right.
selling out to anybody, are they? I got to ask people. There's rumors going around that Upland is selling to another company. Is that happening or no?
I have not heard that rumor. So entertain me.
I had to throw it out there because people have been. I think it's just kind of because like in the last couple of months things have been very quiet, and there have been people speculating that Upland might be selling to another company.
If that was the case, I would have been aware of it.
Okay.
I
There's
would
your answer.
imagine so, and I didn't think so. But let me ask, would you ever sell to another? What if Facebook came to you and was like, hey, we want to offer you $1 billion for Upland? Would you take it?
Everybody has a price. Everybody has a
Well,
price.
I think at the end of the day, again, what we are interested in is the future and the longevity of this project and what we've built. We have spent a lot of years of our lives, and dedicated our lives to this project. So anything that would be constructive and we thought would be beneficial for the platform as a whole, yes, if it made sense, we would do it. Anything that we thought would be destructive for the platform, then no. But that's an easy call because nobody would pay $1 billion if they wanted to destroy the platform, right? So I think like whatever happens in the future will be what is important. I think is that our kind of like incentives and objectives would be aligned with the communities, and that's the most important part.
All right.
Yeah, we don't want to see you go anywhere.
We don't. Absolutely not.
All right, awesome guys. Thank you so much. This was really, really fun. We should do it again.
All right.